In the mid-20th century, across the United States, wastewater plants and other ponds started to import a few species of fish, mainly bighead carp and silver carp. Those are fish that are particularly good at consuming algae blooms and other pests. And as with many things from the mid-20th century, what was meant to be a quick and easy solution turned into an ecological nightmare because, of course, the carp escaped into the wild during floods. Of course, they outconsumed and outcompeted all the local species. And of course, they have no natural predators. So in parts of the Mississippi and Illinois rivers, like here in Peoria, those carp make up 95% of the entire fish biomass. The ecosystem that was here has basically been destroyed and replaced by carp. They can weigh more than 30 kilos and they are easily startled. They will jump out of the water at the slightest disturbance. If you go past a school of them in a boat like this, well, you can see what's happening. If one of those hits you in the head, it could do serious damage. Loads of YouTube channels have already talked about these carp-filled rivers because it's a big visual story and a great demonstration of human intervention causes harm. But the big problem right now is where these fish could end up next. And hopefully by the time I get there, the weather will have got a bit better. The Great Lakes of North America have a $7 billion fishing industry and a $16 billion recreational boating industry. If those carp reach the lakes, it would be another ecological disaster. And the lakes are connected to the Illinois River and the carp in one place, the canals of Chicago. This here is the choke point, the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal. The fish would have to come through here, which is why this water is electrified. The US Army Corps of Engineers have put a giant electric fence underwater.
We have chosen this point very strategically so that there's no way for invasive carp to get around this one particular point and get past the barrier into the Great Lakes. This is also a man-made canal, so it's a very standard shape, and we have the electric bars that bring the electricity into the water sitting nearly on the bottom, 21 feet below the surface. The barriers are designed to send DC electric current into the water. It's pulsed into the water very fast to create a voltage gradient in the water, like a speed hump that you would see on a road. For barrier 2A and 2B, it's 2.3 volts per inch at the surface. And at barrier 1, we're aiming for something around 6.0 volts per inch. And it creates this barrier of electricity.
The actual rooms with the pulsars, the things that send the electricity into the water, are off limits behind blast-proof doors. I can show you photos, but I can't go in because banks of capacitors that can store and release enough energy to electrify all this water 34 times a second are extremely dangerous.
On certain days, you can actually see fish swimming upstream and then they'll turn around and come back. If a fish is brave enough or gets pushed far enough into that voltage gradient, it will stun them. And then they would just float back downstream and they'll wake up somewhere and not understand why they got there. We have fish biologists for making sure that the barrier works. They go out, they capture fish, they tag them, and then they release them below the barrier. The fish do not get past the barrier. We do know that the 2.3 volts per inch is not as effective against little fish.
The main population of the invasive carp has reached about 70 kilometers away from here, and over the last few years, it hasn't seemed to move any closer, which is a good sign, but it doesn't stop individual fish from making the journey. They've been found much closer, even occasionally on the wrong side of the barrier, and all it would take is a few to make it through. And suddenly, the Great Lakes have carp. When the barrier had to be shut down for maintenance in 2009, toxin was added to 10 kilometers of this canal to kill everything in it, just in case.
The amount of voltage that we have to send into the water to keep the barrier operating goes up dramatically when a barge comes through. We've noticed with some of the smallest fish actually do tend to go through the barrier when a barge is going by because of that voltage sag. So we do know that is one weakness of the barrier. Barges are built with what's called a rake on the front. That's the angled portion of the barge. They put it sometimes in between two barges. And so there's a water space in there, and they found that under certain circumstances, small fish could stay in that portion of water for many miles traveling up a river. And so there's the concern that a barge could take a small fish and make it through the barrier. The Navy dive team came out here and did a study on the electricity in the water and what that might do to a person. And the conclusion of that study was that there was a greater than 50% chance that someone in the water would experience cardiac arrest and would die. The Coast Guard has established special rules for this area. There can be no personal watercraft, so no jet skis, no canoes, no kayaks that can go through. All barges passing through this area are required to use steel cables as well, so that the potential between barges stays the same. And many times barges like to have people out on the bow or out on deck doing things. They're required all to be inside in the boat while they're traversing the barrier. Yeah, the birds are totally fine. It's like birds standing on an electrical wire. They gather around and they see these fish kind of gathering in a barrier area and they swoop in and get them. One of the reasons that we have multiple barriers is that they do require maintenance. And so when we have a requirement to maintain a piece of equipment, we make sure that one barrier is operating. We have this layered defense, basically.
The connection between the Great Lakes and the now carp-filled river isn't natural. It was made by engineers 100 years ago in one of the largest civil engineering projects America's ever seen. The entire flow of the smaller Chicago River was reversed in order to flush sewage and wastewater out of the area. So in theory, that connection could be closed again, back to how it was in the 19th century. But that would involve re-engineering most of Chicago's big wastewater systems and flood defenses, and it would cut off what's now a major route for shipping and boating. Closing the link has been suggested, there have been lawsuits about it, but it's not happened.
There's millions of dollars worth of goods that traverse just through this area alone. Barge traffic would have to find another way to get to its end goal. That would often result in more trucks, leading to congestion, leading to more pollution. So although the easiest solution is to close the canal or close a lock, it closes off this vital waterway that keeps goods moving in the Great Lakes. We know there are weaknesses. We still work hard at improving the efficacy of the barriers to continue to look at what voltages are needed to deter fish. Do we have the right millisecond settings? Do we have the right voltage?
You motherfuckers are busy having fun, huh? I fucking hate this tree meme. I fucking hate this tree meme. This fucking tree meme has caused me die 3 times already over the course of the past 1 month. You motherfuckers think that it's funny. You guys think that it's fun. This meme created by I don't know who. Zeno doesn't even acknowledge it. You idiots keep spamming it. You guys think it's fun. Make the 3xdd. I did 3 times PAS. There was 3 times people try to be funny, try to make the 3 and they cost the Y. You guys think it's fun. Make the 3xdd. I did 3 times PAS. There was 3 times people try to be funny, try to make the 3 and they cost the Y. Either they make a 3 and they waste time and don't do what they need to do, or they try to make the 3 and then they make some other shit and they wipe the group, or they merge 2 at the corner, they merge, they think that they don't even know how to make it. Just because you motherfucker think it's funny, you guys have caused a shit wipe and do dumb shit. Get the fuck out of here. I'm sick of this shit, okay? I'm sick of this shit. I'm gonna ban XDD3. I'm very sick of this shit already. It's not funny anymore. This is literally the most stupid and the most dumb thing ever in the history of... This shows you how stupid the Final Fantasy 14 community is. You motherfuckers, right, are so bored out of your mind. And this is only Final Fantasy 14 viewers, and this. You guys are so bored of Activision guy came around to talk to us, right? And then I was telling him about, I'm an MMORPG player. I play Final Fantasy 14. Then he was telling me something like, oh, you play Final Fantasy 14? I watched a lot of Warcraft, Warcraft players also play Final Fantasy 14. Do you know that? Like, I know that kind of talk to Max a little bit, but I guess I should say I know that. And then that guy gave me I want to give a big shout out to Max and THD for allowing me to have a Dragonflight collector edition. I appreciate it. Thank you a lot. Connections. Yay! Hey! At least there's something there that I can be proud to say that, hey, I do know some Wild World first players, you know? I swear, I am blacklisting this white mage. I don't care. I don't care. The black mage, the white mage has killed me twice. I don't care whether it's the white mage that didn't kill me. Okay? I don't care. I'm done with this white mage. Okay? Optimization of stamina only requires two things. Number one, unshot. Number two, using in a different order. Amazing optimization. Holy fuck, you are so fucking big brain, man. Good fucking job. Any black mage want to tell the summoner how to optimize? Anyone? Anyone? Because the fire 1, the fire 2 here, fire 3 dash 3 cast this, sure cast that. Make sure lightning drop here, triple cast this, do not triple cast that. Use this, transpose this again, use this under transpose. Cast this amount, stay in ley line, teleport to white mage, teleport to ley line, teleport to another white mage. Do not cast triple cast like casting double cast, triple cast. Yeah? Any black mage want to tell summoner mates about optimization?
Il y a la LB dans pas long, il y a la LB dans pas long. LB parce qu'il y a un raid wide après, c'est un raid wide, ça doit pousser. Vraiment LB, fais-le stopper. Yes, good job, Matty, good job. On l'a. Please! Oh my god! Oh, bro. Oh, le carry. Good job, good job.
That's a photo.
Mauvais carry, mauvais.
Go west.
West?
Eric's just dead.
Holy fuck, that was awesome.
Oh my fucking. Oh.
That's me, he's gonna do one more auto.
Holy shit, dude.
Or 2 autos or something.
Dude, it doesn't work.
No, what the fuck? I'll fuck around
Damn,
on,
I barely even
fuck
dropped.
around on emulator faces.
I will. When I cleared this on Sage, I Icarus through Exaflares. It was so cool.
But it wasn't cool. Who knows, honestly? Who knows? The mystery.
Yeah, what a mystery. It's impossible to tell by the melee positionals what could have happened.
OK! ものすごい犯罪行為を犯したかもしれません、私。
Normally when I'm filming somewhere like this, I try and set the camera so it's got that kind of professional depth of field. You know the shot. Everything in the background is blurred, but there's a windmill back there and I really want that in focus. I had to throw out nearly all my script for this video. Normally when I go and film somewhere, I try and write everything in advance. I research things in detail before I get there. When I arrive somewhere, there should be no surprises. But I knew, even as I set up for filming on the roof of Royal Flora Holland, that perhaps this video wasn't going to go to plan. Good morning, it's just after sunrise here in Aalsmeer in the Netherlands. This is one of the largest commercial buildings in the world, and today, just like every weekday, millions of fresh flowers are being bought and sold inside. Sort of. This market has existed in some form for 100 years, and recently there have been some changes. Because here's how the story is supposed to go. The auction room will be full of buyers, frantically pushing buttons to bid as cart after cart after cart after cart after cart of fresh flowers are paraded in front of them in a massive, perfectly timed logistics operation. But I'm not sure that happens anymore. All the English language sources I found are out of date because things are changing at the Dutch flag. It turns out a lot of the Dutch language sources are out of date. The truth is that a famous, decades-old tradition has ended, in the same way that video rental stores gave way to streaming. A thing that tourists came to see and that a lot of people think still happens is no more. So I'm going to update the English-speaking world. The famous Dutch flower auction clock is no more. But the flower market that it was once part of is still there, and it runs on an almost incomprehensible scale.
Dit gebouw is ongeveer 800 bij 500 meter. En we maken altijd een vergelijking met Vaticaanstad. Vaticaanstad past op het vloeroppervlak van onze veiling. En als je het hele gebied hieromheen, waar ook de kopers zijn gevestigd, dan zijn we ongeveer zo groot als Monaco. Onze coöperatie is ontstaan uit een fusie van een heleboel andere veilingen. En daarmee zijn we de grootste van de wereld met een omzet van 5,6 miljard euro het afgelopen jaar. We zijn een coöperatie van kwekers. Wij proberen een optimale prijs voor hun producten te realiseren tegen zo laag mogelijke kosten. Dat is allemaal gestandaardiseerd, zodat het allemaal zo efficiënt mogelijk kan gebeuren. En daar zijn we heel succesvol in.
Efficiency. We'll come back to that shortly. I often complain that the camera doesn't capture the scale of something that I visit, but in this case it's not just the camera, it's that there are no good sight lines anywhere in that warehouse. It's next to the airport, so I can't get drone shots, and it's not that tall, so there's no one point where you can overlook the whole thing. Look, it's so big that the employees sometimes use bikes inside to get from one side to the other. It's a giant, high-speed, hyper-optimized clearing. Growers deliver flowers in the early morning, and by lunchtime they're sold on their way to buyers, either via the warehouses next door or in trucks that ship them onwards.
Royal Flora Holland heeft ongeveer 40% van de wereldwijde export in bloemen en planten. Dat betekent niet dat we een marktaandeel hebben van 40% van de totale wereldmarkt. Landen produceren ook voor hun eigen markt, local for local. Maar alles wat geëxporteerd wordt, ja, daar hebben we dus 40% van.
So, okay, it's a logistics warehouse. The scale is impressive, but it's nothing too special. The famous part is how the flowers are sold. You've heard of a Dutch auction? This is one of those auctions, I think the biggest one anywhere. There's lots of historical footage of the big auction spot. It used to be analog and then went digital. Hundreds of flower buyers all sat in theatre seating as racks of flowers are paraded in front of them. For each lot of flowers, the clock counts from a high price to a low price. First to press their button, stops the clock and pays whatever it shows. Press too late, someone else gets the flowers. Press too early and you pay too much. It's an amazing system. It looks great on camera. It's been covered by loads of media over the years, and it's gone. I thought the pandemic would have caused some changes, but no, it turns out this all changed. The internet enables remote buying, so 30% over the years. There's now a reputation system for sellers, so buyers can know the quality as advertised without having to spend about the person. By the mid-2010s, those racks of flowers weren't being pushed through the auction rooms, and by the end of the decade, the rooms were closed down. I got shown one of them. It's abandoned and actually a little bit sad. The replacement is many auctioneers running many clocks over the internet, all at the same time, sitting in cubicles with microphones.
Op de veilingklok staat heel veel informatie over het product. De kwaliteit van het product, de duurzaamheidscertificaten, of het A1 kwaliteit is of A2 kwaliteit is. We hebben 2500 kopers, maar die zitten natuurlijk niet allemaal op één klok, want we hebben in totaal 35 verschillende veilingklokken. De technici hebben het zo kunnen oplossen dat je geen voordeel ervan hebt of je nou hier om de hoek zit, of dat je zeg maar koopt vanuit Londen.
The flower auction isn't like some old railway that gets kept alive as a tourist attraction or preserved by a group of volunteers running what's basically a reenactment society. It turns over billions of euros every year, and if tradition gets in the way of that, then tradition has to go. And I think the sources aren't up to date because this famous thing that has slowly been replaced isn't a nice, friendly story. And besides that, 60% of what goes through that warehouse is sold in advance by contractors, bypassing the box. Some of the really large buyers, like international supermarket chains, are making private arrangements with sellers who don't use the warehouse at all, because those chains are big enough they can handle the logistics themselves. The tourists do still visit. The scale there is still impressive, and I think it's still worth going to see. If you've got some spare time, you're out now. But if you are hoping to watch the famous Dutch auction clock, well, these days it's a lesson to anyone who thinks they won't need to change with time. In the business world, tradition is rarely more important. And speaking of money, today's video is sponsored by Norton. Seriously, it actually is. I'm a little bit surprised too. I'm on the road a lot at the moment, and it turns out that having a magic button that tells websites and phone apps that are in my home country is really useful. Without a VPN, lots of sites that I'm visiting keep putting everything in Dutch and giving me prices in euros. Sometimes there's not even an option to change that. Even YouTube is sometimes like, oh, ik zal je nooit opgeven. Last week, I was blocked from accessing a UK government site until I turned on the VPN. And also, when I'm researching, sometimes I find American sites that completely block me because I'm in Europe and they can't be bothered to comply with European principles. But now I can click a button and tell those sites, nope, I'm in any one of 60 countries now, let me in, and it's actually properly useful to you. If you want streaming services to show you content from other countries, that's an option too. Just check the services terms and conditions first. If you go to nordvpn.com/TomScott, you'll find the best deal that they're currently offering, and there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if it's not right for you, nothing lost. I am kind of surprised to be endorsing NordVPN this enthusiastically and saying, it works for me, and I find it useful, but it is, and I do. So I'm okay with taking their money and breaking the tradition. nordvpn.com/TomScott. If the Thames Barrier were to fail when it was needed, the damage would be almost impossible to calculate. The best estimates I've found say that the financial cost of London flooding would be somewhere between 20 billion and 100 billion pounds. The Houses of Parliament, every skyscraper in the City of London, every building near the river would be unusable for weeks. The central parts of the London Underground would be out of action for months, possibly more. That's before you get to the human costs. Worst case, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people who'd be forced out of their homes. Which is why this barrier is designed to not fail. To be clear, that still means it can have occasional glitches or scheduled maintenance or even have parts of it break entirely. But if any of those things happen, it must still protect London. And there's a whole team who work here full-time to make sure that it does.
We aim to move each of the 10 individual gates at least twice a month to exercise them. Today is one of our monthly test closures. For test closures, we close just as the tide is finishing going out, and that way we can wait until the tide turns, and then we get equilibrium on both sides of the barrier, and therefore we can reopen. That avoids us having to be closed for the full tidal cycle.
A couple of months ago, the barrier had a full high tide test closure, and it is dramatic. Normally the gates just sit out of the way on the bottom of the river, but when they're needed, they're rotated up into place.
Well, for the annual test closure, because we're trying to maximise the differential of the water levels on each side of the barrier, we like to close early in the tidal cycle to allow that differential level to build up to a maximum of 4.5 metres. On a flood defence closure, we close much later in the tidal cycle because we just want to stop the danger element of the tide going up into central London. We try and be gentle with the river, so we start by closing the outer smaller gates and then we slowly work across into the middle. And sometimes we'll bring the two 61-metre gates in the centre of the river up a couple of metres below the surface before we finally bring them into the closed position. And that avoids a reflective wave of the water that's coming in and being stopped being pushed back downstream. So during a flood defence closure, we don't have to stop the whole tide going into central London. We just need to stop the part of that tide that would overtop the linear defences. Normal spring tides that go into London each day do not overtop the embankment walls, for example. But if you've got a surge element on top of that, that is what would go over the top of the walls in London, and that's the element that we need to stop with the barrier. Once we've stopped the danger element of the tide and got a differential, we've effectively created a reservoir upstream of the barrier. We can then over-rotate the large gates and allow a controlled flow of water upstream into the reservoir that we've created. And again, that reduces the amount of time before we get equilibrium on both sides of the barrier and can reopen.
The barrier cannot be allowed to fail when it's needed, so each gate can be moved by one of 4 separate motors. That service tunnel I was in, there are 2 of them, a few metres apart, identical with completely independent power and control systems. The barrier has 3 connections to the UK power grid from both the north and south of the river. And if the entire British national power grid fails, which has never happened, but if it does, the barrier has 3 separate diesel generators, any one of which could operate the entire thing.
We have a number of modes of operation, so that if, when we're using mode 1 operation, we have a problem of technical nature, we go to mode 2. problem with Mode 2, we go to Mode 3. We don't necessarily have time to sort out any technical issues, but we've got other modes of operation that we can fall back on. The barrier has to close when we need it to. I always say that if the Prime Minister was stood in the House of Commons in his Wellingtons and we said, sorry PM, we'll get it right next tide, that would probably be fairly career limiting.
So that's the technical resilience. What about the physical construction? Well, these piers are made of Portland cement, so they'll stand for a couple of centuries at least. The steel gates are protected by what's called a sacrificial anode. Corrosion in water like this is an electrochemical process. So if you connect a chunk of metal that's more easily corroded to something like the gate, that chunk of metal will take the corrosion damage instead, and you can replace it fairly easily whenever you need to. So the gates will also be fine for a century or so. What if a ship hits the barrier? Well, ships are designed to float. Relatively speaking, they're not that solid. These piers are thick concrete, and each of the main gates is 3,000 tons of steel. So the ship's going to come off worse. Collisions have actually happened several times. In 1997, a ship called the Sandkite hit one of the piers. The only damage to the barrier was some scratched paint and a broken ladder, but the ship sank. The trouble was that it sank where it hit and sat broken.
Go on, Engineer. It's Toad, your favorite. Fine, I admit it. Fighting all 8 of you is just too much for me. Not? Ha! I lied! Have at thee! Why, I've been had! This is far from the strongest of spears. I feel so betrayed. Goodness gracious! I, just remembered something.
I'm not allowed to cross this road because this is the town of Stansted, Canada. On the other side of the street is Derby Line, USA, and the border between the two countries runs right down this Rue Canusa. The local residents, that can be inconvenient.
I lived here all my life, so 63 years. Today, you cannot cross over the line and visit your neighbors like years ago. If you want to cross, you have to report at customs. You know, I used to cross every day. Now I probably cross once a week because I come down to the post office over here. To go through the border, basically, they ask you a passport. They go inside. I guess they look at if you have a record or not. They look at your registration of your car. But a couple of minutes and you're on through. I'm a dual citizen. I'm American and Canadian, so it's easier.
This is a place where the idea of a border as a solid, easy-to-understand line gets a little bit fuzzy. The road doesn't run at exactly the same angle as the border, not precisely. The official line is that this is Canada and that's the USA. But both countries' maps show the road as being entirely in the US just here and entirely in Canada up there. The houses are definitely in separate countries, but the road, it's not quite as clear. And in practice, if I was driving, I'd be okay. Even on that side of the road, I am considered to be still in Canada, as long as I don't stop and walk up to an American house. It's fair to say that there's a little bit of leniency here if you're just nudging the border by a few centimetres, or if you're on that side a couple of inches. But while I was setting up my camera here, the police turned up, lights flashing, to move along those bikers you saw earlier, who were admiring the view from the other side of the road. It all seemed in good spirits, but they had crossed the border.
Well, the library is part on the Canadian side, part on the American side. But you stay on Canadian side, you stay on the sidewalk, and you go through the front door, and it's permitted. On Canusa Street, there's a sidewalk on the Canadian side. So back years ago, it was tolerated that people on the American side could cross over and walk on the sidewalk. So, you know, basically it's a little dangerous to walk on the side of the road. And now today, well, it's not tolerated no more. I think the rules hasn't changed much, but they're more enforced. When you cross, they ask you more questions than they used to, you know, years ago. Before, you went through the border and you knew most of the customs officer, and they used to wave to you, you know.
In 1783, this section of the Canada-US border was set at the 45th parallel, a line of latitude. Slightly inaccurate measurements were accepted by both countries, so it was locked in. But as for this specific road, there are local stories about drunk surveyors and pranks, but no one really knows.
¿Qué quieres?
Una Coca-Cola.
¿Por qué?
Me gusta mucho.
Ask her if she knows that people in Chiapas drink more Coke than any country in the world per capita.
Sí, eso es cierto.
Have you ever seen one of these things with a Coke sign on it? Me either. I'm out here in the middle of the jungle in a tiny town, and all they have in that fridge behind me is Coca-Cola. What to get? So we got the 3 liter, 2.5, and 2. Just a random corner in San Cristobal, and it's a Coke store. Listen, when I'm traveling, nothing tastes better than an ice-cold Coca-Cola. It's refreshing, it's a familiar taste, and it just gives me this subconscious feeling of being home. But after spending the majority of the last month in Mexico, I found out that Mexican Coca-Cola is actually made differently than back in the States. Here, it's made with real cane sugar as opposed to high fructose corn syrup, which is much more delicious. I swear to God, Coke just tastes that much better in Mexico. But some parts of Mexico have gone overboard with their Coca-Cola consumption, just like right here in Chiapas. Also known as Mexico's southernmost state and one of the poorest.
There is no turning back!
In fact, people in Chiapas drink more Coke per capita than any country in the entire world. Can you believe that?
¿Cuántas litros te tomas al día? 3 litros.
6 liters in one day. Wow. What is it?
It goes down really well with this one.
According to a 2019 study by the Chiapas Research Center, Coke drinkers in this state enjoy an average of 821 liters per person per year. That is equivalent to 2.2 liters per person per day. For comparison, Americans drink 3% of that amount on average.
Would you say Coke is the most popular drink that you sell here? Yeah.
So why do they drink so much Coca-Cola in Chiapas compared to the world? It all comes down to 2 things: accessibility and price.
Salud. Salud.
Coca-Cola is often easier to find than bottled water, and it's just as cheap. I'm talking just 30 cents.
Literally in this fridge you can find more Coca-Cola than water. It's absurd. 2 rows of water, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows of Coke.
There's a massive bottling plant here in San Cristobal that produces and distributes Coca-Cola all around the state.
Right now we're walking through the big Coca-Cola factory right in the city of San Cristobal.
But Coca-Cola even goes a step further than just a drink. To the socio-indigenous people in Chiapas, Coke is spiritual and deeply intertwined with their culture. In a town called San Juan Chamula, you can see bottled Coke as an offering in their main place of worship. They believe that Coke can heal the sick, proving to be one of the most interesting rituals I've ever seen.
Holy man. So we arrived here in Chamula and we walked down through the market to the church, buy a ticket to go inside, and all of a sudden this massive parade starts. I got really scared because I heard all these loud like gunfire.
God, man. I can't see anything. Oh. I've never seen anything like this before in my life.
There was a huge parade with explosions all over the main plaza. When we went inside of the church, we saw these rituals and they had these Coca-Cola bottles on the floor, people playing music. They make a solemn ritual, like they drink the Coca-Cola to exhale all the bad spirits inside of them. After they purify their body drinking flush, they go inside the middle of the church.
Right.
And then as soon as you walk outside, everyone's on the side drinking Coke. Like every single person had a Coke in their hand. I don't know, it was crazy.
As a result of all this Coke drinking, it's no surprise to hear that the effect on public health has been devastating. Diabetes has become a major problem in Chiapas, claiming more than 3,000 lives a year. It's now the second leading cause of death in the state behind heart disease. But the people here have been warned, and that doesn't stop them from getting their hands on another bottle of their favorite carbonated drink. Guys, I'm not making this video to pick on Mexico. I just wanted to raise awareness because it has really caught me by surprise. I absolutely love this country, its people, and its culture, and I can't wait to come back here again in the near future.
Thanks everyone for watching, and have a great day. It's really prohibited to take pictures. Like, I think that's the hardest I've ever gone. Yeah, I know, like, it would be crazy to have some pictures on, like, record this parade, massive parade. It was insane. All I wanted to do was take out my camera and get some shots, and it was too hard. Everyone was looking around, and I was able to shoot my face a little bit, but nothing was happening. But the strangest thing about all this was, it's like a parade, like a fiesta, a celebration, but nobody was smiling, everybody looked upset. Is that just cultural or?
Yeah, there was people around here that are not like cheering up each other during celebrations, but like they look serious in this lobby. It's really, really important for them to make this celebration.
Yeah, it's just super serious. Anyways, that's what we saw here in Chamula. Too bad that I couldn't record it, but I will never forget that, man. Have you ever seen that before?
No, this is the first time I see this kind of parade over here.
First time. He's from here, well, he's from San Cristobal, and I've never seen it before. Signing out.
Impressive! Very well, I shall bring all to bear! Lightning Sear! Tempest Surge! Lightning Sear! Steel yourself! You're mine! Tempest Surge! You are stronger than I dared hope! Tempest Surge!
Folks, we are yet again in Belgium today, and today I would like to start this video of a disaster save game that we will save in Victoria 3 by giving you one of my favorite quotes of all time. It comes directly from when Caesar was in Belgium and saw the tribe of the Belgicae. He said that the leader of the tribe came to him and said, "It's Belgian time," and he belged all over Caesar. The Belgium that we have in this save game is in a fairly similar spot to the Belgians when Caesar arrived. They have shortages everywhere and everybody's kind of unhappy. What we're about to do here today is fix just that, but also actually lead ourselves into a bit of a different position. You can see right here that the player of this save game, and so sorry I already deleted the email, I don't actually know who sent it to me, but the player was already in a position where they were pursuing the egalitarian society goals. This one, women and children, makes it so. I think it's the second to last goal that we need compulsory primary school and women's suffrage. I will be taking it even further. Today, I will be creating a Belgian absolute paradise that is basically run as a council republic / worker co-op, maybe even some anarchy in there if we can get it in there. That is the big goal. As you can see, we have a long way to go. We're a monarchy, of course, we have interventionism, mercantilism, and universal suffrage, etc., etc. A lot to do, but I think we can get it done. So, in this video, let's fix the issue that we clearly have here as Belgium. Man, this graph is just a disaster. And then let's try to implement a new form of communism. See, in the video in which we formed the Soviet Union and did everything right for worker co-ops, somebody said, hey, I don't think this is possible to do unless you have massive natural resources, much like Russia, of course, has oil. Today, I will prove that worker co-ops are just broken. It will always be amazing. If you have the chance to use it, then trust me, it will be a great outcome. But before we can actually do any of this, we of course need to understand what is even going on to begin with. Now, immediately, it is very easy to see that we have massive shortages. Literally everything is essentially suffering. This is usually an indication that we either just left a market or that we are very much without any market access to begin with. We're part of the British market here, and as you can see, we have absolutely nothing. We're going to explore that in just a second. Ooh, look at that. Spain is in the Egyptian market and also has zero market access. Amazing. Let's take a look at the actual stats of our country, and then we take a look at why we have no market access. Right here, you can see that our capacities are all looking fine. Our monetary situation, I mean, it's not great. You can see right here that we have definitely completely broken down, and our gold reserves have been depleted as we went, but I gotta be honest with you, nothing here looks absolutely horrible in any way whatsoever. Our subsidies are, just for railways, they are completely fine indeed. Right here in the GDP value, we can immediately see, yep, this is something went wrong right here. I would guess, you know, this is quite easy to see from this graph alone, that we are indeed talking about a situation where we have no market access and have had no market access for quite some time. Despite this, of course, we are still in a pretty decent position. Austria-Hungary, as always in this patch, running away with it. And then right here, literacy is fine, our standard of living. Yeah, obviously this is going to generate some radicals because they were doing much better with 22.1, and now they have fallen all the way to 15.8 on average again. But I think we're still doing okay. This is, again, not too worrisome. I don't think this is an underlying fundamental issue. This is something that we can fix if we just try. Continuing onwards into the actual law stream, we can see that we have very strong Belgian Workers' Party. So that is the trade unions, the industrialists, and the intelligentsia are also fairly strong. And I love to see strong petite bourgeoisie. They are so interesting. And my God, yeah, wow, they must have won an election right here or something. I really like to see the petite bourgeoisie being strong, but in most games they just really aren't, because shopkeepers aren't something to keep around. Maybe today we can have some more luck and keep it around for a bit longer. I gotta tell you, in general, I really like the way this graph has worked out. The rise and fall of the petite bourgeoisie is quite impressive. Right over here, then, we can see that our legitimacy is fine. We couldn't reform anything better. It looks like we're currently working with the Liberal Party and the Belgian Workers' Party. Now, as I said, we're looking at a situation where we are trying to become as liberalized, as democratic, maybe even anarchic as possible, and also at the same time running a command economy based on the worker co-op that we can find in a council republic. And already, many people here actually endorse this change. We're currently going towards presidential republic. Man, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think I'm gonna hold this and immediately jump over to Council Republic if indeed we can. I want the Council Republic so that we can immediately jump into workers' co-ops, even if we can't just subsidize them all right away. But this would give us a massive power boost for wealthy trade unions and so on. Everything else here seems pretty okay. Obviously, we have to change these two laws for the egalitarian goals. Obviously, we also want graduated taxation rather than just proportional taxation. But other than that, I think we're doing fairly okay. Oh no, mercantilism definitely needs to go. Oh, this is why the bourgeoisie is so powerful. Mercantilism makes it so that all of your trade centers will actually be run by merchant guilds, so meaning shopkeepers. We're going to change this. This is not a good law for, you know, the time that we're currently in. Be that as it may, let's continue from here. The actual issue of what has happened is, it's laughable. I don't really know what happened here, I'll be honest with you. You have the British, and the British have zero ports. They said, you know what? Maybe Brexit does mean Brexit, and in this case it means that even we are no longer allowed to leave or enter Britain. You're either in or you're out. And I'm gonna tell you straight up, I don't think we are, really destined to remain here in the British market, but I have seen that at least some of these ports, I believe it was here in East Anglia, we're looking at a situation where in just 6 weeks we should get some access back to the British market, which should restore much of this. But one thing here is quite clear. The British are only looking at 83 million GDP, significantly worse than us, because for some reason they decided to delete their ports. But we're looking in a situation where we want them to fix it so that I can then prep myself to actually leave the market. This is going to be a tumultuous phase, but I think it will be necessary because once we're independent, we can use our own ships, our own market supply, and we will no longer really depend on the British. It would even be ideal if we just get a trade agreement with them. Now, a really cool thing in this save game actually is that we don't just have African colonies. These are really, really good, and they will be a main source of how we actually manage this country. But we also have the Niger Free State. Now, the Niger Free State is a very special mechanic. It even has its own journal entry, of course. There it is. Basically, the way it works, it is exactly the hellscape that Leopold, the King of Belgium, basically practiced back in the day. But if we stop being a monarchy, we can simply annex it, which would be absolutely excellent because we are multicultural, we accept them, there are no taxes down here, and they have valuable resources. We're not going to incorporate any of this, but if we make the shift to Council Republic, I will definitely move in on, well, all of this basically. I would be very, very happy to do this. Oh yeah, speaking of taking land, I decided that, since this is a bit of a challenge where I say I think we can run communism as a tiny, resource-deprived nation, I'm not going to take any more country or any more territory here in Europe. The Netherlands look juicy, don't get it wrong. I mean, if we take the Netherlands, we also get the Dutch East Indies. It's such a great addition. I'm gonna resist that urge. We're just going to remain Belgium. Belgium is perfect as it is, okay? So there isn't going to be 2 steps here. First of all, obviously we're going to initiate this right here. This is incredibly important, gives us much, much more innovation. I think we're also going to be building more universities as we go. The other thing is that many of these, as you can see, if not almost all of them, are not profitable. Now I could be shifting around my actual production methods right here, but I don't know whether they will be profitable once we actually regain access to the British market. So I could be doing this, but I don't know whether we will actually benefit from it. What we're going to be doing here is, I will simply take a look at this. Obviously we have 0 access to the market because there is no port in Britain, but even then, our infrastructure currently wouldn't allow us to have all of these things in our location. Let me check something. We can technically go over here, which gives us more infrastructure. I don't think it even is enough, but we're going to switch this over. And then, where do we go? I'm going to switch to steamships because this is now what our port will be using. I guess we could be using some military production, doesn't really matter, that's okay. But I do think, no matter what we do, we will have to downsize some buildings right here. And downsizing some buildings is always a difficult choice. I think, yeah, we're going to start with buildings that aren't even fully employed because they do still take infrastructure, of course, but, obviously aren't actually prepared to properly make use of it. Alright, we are definitely getting there now, but I had to stomp in so many buildings. What was basically happening here was that, yes, the British did destroy all their ports, but even when they reconnected to us, we were still in a position where we had massive infrastructure usage that went way over the actual infrastructure that we had here, making it so that I had to destroy a bunch of buildings, especially those, of course, that actually cost us money. Our GDP, because of this, has dropped even further. But don't worry about it, because the greatest gift that this game could basically make to us has now actually happened. By me firing all these people, and my god, they got significantly more angry. They got significantly more angry at me passing Council Republic. Now usually when people... hello Austria. When people do this, they are telling you, hey, don't have revolutions, it is much too costly, just don't bother with it, just, hey, please don't do it. I will tell you right now. If you're in a position like Belgium, where you just have your capital in something else, or, just a couple of incorporated states all to begin with, do the revolution. It's a great idea. What is going to happen here is that 24.9% of our cloud and another 16.9% will be rebelling. They will only be grabbing Wallonia. We will destroy them, and afterwards we can pass whatever the hell we want to pass. I am incredibly excited for this because this is a great opportunity to actually leverage a revolution. I think most of the time when we do these sort of things, we just do reformism. In this case, it will be violent and I will win. Let's get this done. Alright, so I do think that we're about to win this actual revolt here. If we take a look at this, then we can even see that the Niger Free State is sending us troops. Very, very nice. I think I will be going ahead and actually using this conscription center right here. That should seal the deal. All we need is a single tile within Wallonia and we will get them to capitulate. You can also see that we are very much still losing money, but it's actually fine because now that our actual economy is working again, the remaining credit grows faster than this decreases it. So that's pretty decent. I think we're on our way to be a communist utopia. I have never seen this, but I absolutely love this event. The party headquarters of the Communist Party have been burnt down as we are entering a civil war against the capitalists. You can see it is slowly but surely ticking down there. And that is terrible news. It is largely related to us trying to pass Council Republic. Now, I will eat this 10% and then get everybody else to hate us a bit more. That's completely fine. The trade unions rule supreme, don't you know? This revolution will take some time. Obviously, again, we just need to conquer one tile, and we will do this eventually as soon as our conscription service has gone far enough. We are now also back to making money, and much more importantly, we have a pretty decent investment pool. The first thing, and the only thing that I think I really care about right now, I mean, if we can finish this, that is no problem whatsoever, is building ports. We need more ports. I talked about this earlier, that these ports are very much required so that we can actually run our own economy once we leave the British. So you know what, let's just push these out. Let's make sure that, of course, the investment pool is used, and we'll go from there. These sort of revolutions are actually always very, very easy to win. Not only are we in a position where we are still in the British market, we are also the only part of this country that actually has access to the sea, meaning that Bologna can only really trade with Luxembourg, the Germans, and the French. Yeah, they don't really have a chance, and what the hell is going on over here? Prussia is fighting oh my god. Yeah, that is a classic Prussia relationship map right here. Oh, they're fighting over German leadership. That is very, very interesting. If we could see a Germany, it would be... It could... be a really good source of power. If I trade with them, we can definitely benefit from that greatly. It is always better to have a unified Germany if they don't want your land than not having unified Germany and needing to trade with all of these people individually or, well, you know, not at all. Beautiful. The Belgian liberal revolt is over, and this means that our enacting Council Republic, despite the setbacks, now has a 54% chance. Not just that, but we are also looking at 100% legitimacy, because, well, this Belgian Workers' Party, of course, cashed in on the votes since they were the only party running. Yeah, it's really cool. This puts us into a really strong position. There is something that we need to take care of. The Niger Free State has a rebellion of their own. I think if we arrive there in time, we desperately need to arrive there in time, because it does look like they are losing. Let's hope that they can't push in too deep. Alright, we're having a second revolution, which in itself, listen, wouldn't be too bad, because it does get rid of the landowners and, of course, of the Catholic Church. Look at this powerful duo right here. But it did take the general that previously was fighting for us in the Niger Free State. And while he will finish this battle afterwards, this front will be abandoned. These are interesting times. I'm going to recruit 2 generals here and then hope that we can somehow make this work. This is the second rebellion in a row, basically immediately popping off. But I'm happy for it, because it really does mean that the trade unions and the petite bourgeoisie will be the only powers in this nation. Having both these and, of course, again, yeah, the industrialists and the intelligentsia rebel one after the other is really, really good for our approval numbers. Alright, here we are. We have won the civil war. We might be able to now finally recover. You can see that our population has definitely suffered throughout this war. We used to be a bit higher, huh? Alright, so I hope that this was the very last civil war that we had to experience in this campaign. That would be absolutely beautiful, because then we can actually finally start rebuilding. As you can see, we now have petite bourgeoisie with 43%, trade unions with 39%. We have a 98% chance in the next enactment success test that we can enact council republics. It better work, right? Everybody else has been completely decimated. We're now in a position where we can hopefully make things work, but this also means that we now need to consider what we actually want to do as a country, as a nation. First of all, take a look at this. The Belgian supply network has increased significantly. If I may, I would like to build even more ports, but yeah, I may not. We do not have the capacity to actually do this here. I'm saying this because we will be leaving the British, and after that we need to be capable of trading quite a bit. Now, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we're giving 50% of our... Oh, so actually we have around, what, 15,000? We might even be able to leave the British market right now. But before we do that, we are currently in a good situation. We are just basically floating. Let's determine something here. What I want to do with Belgium, where I, very similar to the Russia game, want to create a cash cow building that will be run as, of course, a worker cooperative, make these workers a lot of money, make us a lot of consumers, and on top of that, give us a lot in terms of dividends taxes. Today, I will be doing this with the textile mills. Yeah, that's right. We're going to take the textile mills and we're going to drive the weekly balance up as much as possible so that we can tax it and get very rich workers for it. So, this is basically a showcase that you don't just need natural resources, it can also be an actual manufactured good. In this case, of course, the luxury clothes right here and the normal clothes. So, what does that mean? Well, as I said yesterday, when we talk about the issue of okay, how do you run a functional economy, we need to consider every step of the way. Do not just build a textile mill and then be surprised because it didn't really catch up with the input goods. You need to be in a position where they constantly make profit, or your dividends will basically completely be awful. We're going to start here by building more electricity. That is a major plot point here, because if we don't have that electricity, then yeah, how exactly are we going to be running these textile mills? This is a good start, and I think right now, yeah, they don't actually use coal, but I believe that I'm researching this. Oh no, I'm researching electric railways. That is also very, very important. But see, I'm looking at this now and I'm saying to myself, maybe I should be going to steam turbine next. We're going to get these right now, that is completely fine. Obviously we need to work more on coal, and I would love to have more universities. These more universities will actually make it so that I can get the tech that we need to succeed on an industrial level. Alright, I mean, we had 2 revolutions, but what about a third? I mean, a third one just sounds great. This is the Belgian experience. Finally, the Council Republic is this means there are no capitalists anymore. This is entirely run now by the workers and for the workers, and I think we can, work with this. We also do need to establish that we have this massive party here that is incredibly annoying, or rather looks incredibly annoying to me. I want to pass a couple of more laws if I can. We right now can't really do command economy because we're looking at some workers that are the socialists, but that's okay. With interventionism, we can still very much subsidize, so this should be perfectly fine. The other thing right here is that we do want to change mercantilism, because this will be breaking the back of basically the petite bourgeoisie, and that is, yeah, I would love that, right? Because it would make it so that afterwards we're looking at a situation where mostly the trade unions and maybe the rural folk are quite active. The petite bourgeoisie has then been destroyed a little bit. Look at this. I mean, come on. And don't rebel again, you hear me? Here we go, I love this. It is so good. Free State question. After the disappearance of the monarchy, it has become clear that the Niger Free State is a relic of the past. I will be reintegrating this state because it makes it so that, yep, indeed, I have now access to all of this territory. Let me just here, by the way. I think it just interrupted it. That's okay. We now have all of this territory, which means that we're producing all of these things directly. And yeah, look at that. This is going to be a great source of additional strong worker consumer power. This is something you always need to keep in mind as well. When you play communist, even if you have communist and fully accepted cops in unincorporated territory, just because you're not collecting taxes there doesn't mean it's wasted. It just means that they will be buying your food and your goods but not really paying any taxes. Either way, it is beneficial for us. Alright, here we go. Protectionism has passed. We're now looking at 47.4% trade unions. Again, as I said already, the trade unions sadly are not in a position where they actually are socialist/communist. But that is perfectly fine. Now that we've taken away the power of trade centers from the petite bourgeoisie, I think it might be time to take a good look at becoming independent. I will be honest with you, we've done this several times on this channel before. Becoming independent of your own market is not all that easy because you can't really see all the numbers, all of the important steps that will change as you become independent. That is the reason why I have built this massive amount of convoys, and I've just finished them with a bunch of additional forts right here that are still being built up. Hopefully making it so that we will have enough forts to trade like madmen. The goal is that as soon as we become independent from the British market, we can then trade for everything that we need, come out roughly equal, and then start the actual march towards a massive, massive communist utopia. As you can see already, we are catching up with the GDP again. If we check on Austria, they're doing alright, they're not stagnating. UK is definitely stagnating, and I'm pretty sure that Prussia lost its war against Austria, making it so that we probably won't receive Germany. Either way, I think in about a year or so after we build these power plants right here, we can then actually switch. Yeah, 70 months. Once we can actually switch to the steam turbines, so we can build Frankfurt, I think I will be leading this market. Now, I really want to highlight this. I have gone hard on our economy. You can see that I am with very high taxes right here. I'm taxing services as well. That is a base product that even very poor people are using. And yet, after these civil wars, after everything is settling down, look at these loyalist numbers and look at these very minor radical numbers at this point. What is going on? Well, I can tell you what's going on. This is going to be after graduated taxation, we're not getting all the dividend money that we think we deserve, but are getting a whole lot more money than they were before. This alone, and I haven't even entered the actual money printing plan of having a lot of countries in our Belgium. The actual reality of working force as we're currently in the game is completely blasting the capitalist reality. I told you this earlier, I think they might want to rebalance this a bit, but hey, I'll take what I can. And this is just absolutely beautiful. Again, we had 3 revolutions, probably like too many or something, but I will absolutely take it. Because now we have graduated taxation, it makes it so that we are mostly taxing the dividends, and again, that is excellent. Because if you think about it, that means we are getting the lion's share of this building's income, for example, and are not taxing the wages, so that the wages actually work more for the actual consumer than the worker, and then we just still on the top, and with that we can run this nation. Now this means that we do want the dividends to be as high as possible whenever possible. And currently, let me just check here, we can't go for anarchy or anything like that, but this puts us into a really, really great position, because finally, we start with the original plan, which was to leave the British market and make things work on our own. Now this is what we need to do an operation. We need to first clear the power plants around so that this right here can be used for this electricity, makes it a lot cheaper, gives us a lot more in terms of actual dividends, and with that in dividends, taxes, and then I'm going to click this horrid button. Let's take a look at you. Look at this. The GDP right here is lower than ours. Obviously, we need to leave their market. We're going to end this customs union, and yep, that was to be expected. Our GDP is collapsing, but it won't be too big of an issue, and the reason for this is this right here. We have 20,000 available convoys. All that I now need to do is actually possibly build a few more government administrations. Let's just pop these down right here. And then I need to trade for everything. I'm just gonna do this. It's just a lot of clicking, okay? You're not missing anything. Alright folks, let's take stock of the situation. We have Rebound, and that is largely because I've created a whole bunch of trade routes that make it so that we have all of the input and the output goods that we need. This means we're, for example, overproducing rubber, we're selling a lot of rubber, and this will build up over time. We do currently have a deficit, but you can see that if we weren't building, this would look significantly better, and it will look significantly better very soon as we bring down the price for glass, for example, steel, and so on. What we're about to do right now is skyrocket our economy as if we had oil without actually having oil. Okay, technically, I guess that's not correct. We have some oil here somewhere. I saw it earlier, I swear. But what we're about to do is now actually build this clothing manufacturing site. What we need to do, and this is the only thing that matters, now that we have graduated taxation, even if we don't currently have planned economy, again, it doesn't matter, I'm just subsidizing literally all of these buildings. I told you in the other video that that is something that is advisable. I will be building up textile mills take all of these very, very cheap ingredients and make those that aren't cheap yet even cheaper. I'm currently building some synthetic plants right here. And then we will take these goods and export them. You can already see that we have a massive, massive weekly balance right here, and this will only get better. I was not lying to you, I promise, when I told you that being communist and going with worker co-ops is just too good right now. You can already see it right here. Our workforce is incredibly rich, despite, of course, our actual payments. So the wages here just being 12 bucks. Why don't we check in on France here? Maybe we can have a similar building. Oh, there it was. Okay. They are paying 19 annual wage. Again, this is because we're looking at a situation where our people aren't really financed via wages, but via the dividends that we can then tax. These are the numbers that we are now going to kick further and further. I will become the cloth mill of the world. Yep, and this is exactly how it is going. Keep all of this cheap, then make this something you can export, and all of a sudden you will be looking at some insane weekly balance. And might I just add, by the way, that we just put down the dividends taxes as well. We are now at a normal level right here. We're doing absolutely outstandingly well, and Belgium is the only really rich province now. I will never stop building up these textile mills. Maybe we will even hit 1 million, but the whole point, I hope, is becoming exceedingly clear. The more we can export, and I think the only thing really limiting us, let me check. Yep, the only thing really limiting us is actually our convoy availability, which is why I'm now also researching concrete dockyards. The more we build our textile mills, the more will I be able of actually supplying the entire world, growing our GDP into infinity, and maybe more importantly, growing the richest and most consumption-oriented user base, or well, population that is worker co-ops in action. And we're up to 529,000 in weekly balance. Jesus Christ. Oh, and finally, we have the event that I was looking forward to for such a long time. After we became communists, we just, have a very strong petite bourgeoisie. They keep winning elections, and, I mean, fair enough. We have decent trade unions. At the very least, everybody loves us. I mean, yeah, no surprise, because this is what happens if everybody is disgustingly rich. They get massive loyalist bonuses. Now this means the Red Army is now indeed always going to be either Vanguardist, Communist, or, and I can't click it, Anarchist. Now let me just check. What are you right now? You are currently Communist. That's not good enough. Republican, Jingoist. Yeah, you can see I just have some Republicans, some Radicals. It's all nonsense, but we will be passing some new laws. It's completely fine. New communist government. Yeah, absolutely. For some reason, the Red Army is now taken over. We don't really have an army. I just made more fleets. And there's only one reason that I did that. That I could declare more regions in which I can then trade. Our actual system is still very much working. Obviously, we need to expand even more. But again, the goal here is genuine anarchy. Folks, let's take stock of what has been going on here, because it has been quite the journey. It's not quite the end yet, but we're looking at 1893. You can see I've taken it fairly slowly, I guess, with the actual construction. We have bigger construction capacity. I'm not really using it because the point of this entire playthrough was to prove that, yeah, these textile mills can take off. I want to push this to 1 million. I think we can do it, and yeah, we'll see where we go from there. Right now, the way it stands, just to understand it, is fundamentally that we have worker co-ops. And while I wasn't yet able to actually pass command economy because nobody really wants it, I am subsidizing everything. And subsidizing everything is really, really important because it gets this ball rolling. What ends here with the textile mills is not actually even resolved in this country. This directly is then fed with 55,000 units going into other markets worldwide that consume this. I would personally argue, decimated the global cloth production. You can see basically nobody is doing anything. We are exporting massive, massive amounts, and yeah, our own population, of course, is getting incredibly rich. The same can be said for the luxury clothes right here. Look at this. Jesus, they don't even have 1/10 of my production as the runner-up. I am a massive, massive producer, and all of this money isn't just going to capitalists or any such nonsense. It is going to this population. And when you actually check this population, you'll be able to see that when you have a stack of 200,000 machinists that are incredibly rich and that are still gaining net income, that they are consuming a crazy amount of things. And this is something that you will never see in any other game when it comes to Victoria 3 unless you play worker co-op. Look at these services. For the very first time ever, we have a situation where it is fairly advisable to go and maybe even switch around this to market squares, because services actually are expensive in a country that is as rich as Belgium. This is a very interesting angle of playing Victoria 3 because commonly services and such are never that interesting because, well, your population never gets rich enough. If you run any sort of worker co-op, if we subsidize it all, and then if we take a look at whatever you want to be the big moneymaker, like here the textile mills, you can create a world like this. I'm telling you this, I know I've been doubted, but I'm telling you this 100% worker co-ops are utterly, utterly broken. I hope that you can see this now. I'm gonna be back. I hope that I can show you 1 million weekly balance here, but let's just see how it progresses. Oh, and this is perfect. The Workers' Republic has been called, and we're not going to be Vanguard. We're not going to be really just council-oriented. We are going to go towards anarchism. Alright, so that event was great, but as it stands right now, taking the trade unions into government will completely eviscerate our actual credibility because it requires the rule folk to also be in government, and yeah, that's just not really doable. The problem here, I'm pretty sure, is that they are currently not affiliated with any party, which means they wouldn't get any votes under an electoral system. If you don't have any votes, then you're not legitimate. After the next election, we're going anarchist. Easy as that, yeah. Oh, and things just got even better. I have been bankrolled in Spain. They have been liking me quite some time. They are in the Italian market. Let me just check this. It might be fairly close because I'm also running out of supply network here, but I will absolutely invite them into my market. I will be selling all of my stores to you, my friend. So we just fundamentally, by the way, also have a competitive advantage because we have such low wages in comparison to, for example, Spain. This means we are probably going to bankrupt them, which then drives their actual population into our arms, making it so that, yep, I don't need to conquer, there's my population growth. Alright, well, I don't think I need to explain this well. I think Spain made a horrible mistake by joining this customs union. See, what we most of the time do is we basically suck countries dry, you know, but from the other direction. When I played Lanfang, for example, we were the tiny partner in a customs union. We basically sucked the UK dry. Now it's the other way around. I'm the big partner. I have all of the GDP, and Spain joins me and says, okay, everybody's leaving. Goodbye. Oh, look, I wasn't even doing anything. Weekly balance, 1.04 million. You gotta wonder why we don't just do this in real life, huh? If it's this successful. Wait a minute, Jesus Christ, what happened to Britain? Wait a minute. Britain has a GDP of 39 million. They had a civil war, I do remember that, but wow. Sucks to be you, I guess. Alright, you know what? I'm gonna be absolutely a disgusting cheek here. First of all, is it another rebellion? Second of all, I'm gonna take on Britain's debt. I don't have that much free space right now, but we'll be fine. We'll be absolutely fine, let me tell you. As soon as they're genial with us, I will actually invite them to join me in my customs union, with me as the major partner. You know what, speaking of which, I will absolutely join this play. Yeah. Who doesn't remember the Belgian intervention in Oxford, where we, the communist state of Belgium, aided Great Britain, ruled by their emperor Albert Fitzclarence, with the trade unions in charge, to defeat... what even is this? The rural folk, yes, to defeat the peasants. Wonderful. Alright, I'm pretty sure, here we go. I'm going to dissolve this obligation, then I will take on their debt again, just a meager 1 million, yes. Literally does not matter. And then, yeah, there you go. Oh my god, they deleted their ports again, didn't they? They deleted their ports again. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I have no idea what is up with that AI. You know, initially I even thought to myself, maybe the player deleted it as a meme and then sent me the save, but no. It's just Britain repeatedly deleting its ports. What the hell is even going on over here? Oh man, alright. And look what we have here. There it is. Anarchy. Also, a very laggy game, because I just started exporting stuff everywhere. Let me just check this here. Can I get... oh my god, it's so laggy. We're currently looking at a situation here, since nobody's in a party, this is a bit troublesome. When are the next elections? Are we even holding elections with Anarchy? I'm pretty sure we do, right? Do we do it immediately? Oh, look at that. The conquest of bread. Mother Anarchy loves her sons, and that gives us additional legitimacy That is really good. 62? Yeah, I mean, I'll take it, right? Can't really go any further, can't really go back here. We got Anarchy, it's working now. Sadly, no command economy. I mean, what can you do? Again, nobody wanted to go command economy, so that is what it is. We could move on from something else here as well, but honestly, I think we're doing well. I have now invited the Netherlands. I have the British market that has no ports. Yeah, other than that, no, I think we're doing alright. Oh, we became #1 by accident. I hope you can forgive me that I haven't been building up more. I've been trying to get Great Britain to accept to become my protectorate. So what's been happening is I kept taking on their debt because it's so little, but they have nothing that they can do with it because they don't have any ports, which is good for them because it means that their population is stuck in Britain and can't come all the way to Belgium. But it does mean that, yeah, their GDP is doing really poorly. Now I have perfect relationship with them. I have a really good, connection and really good attitude here. The real issue just is defend the borders. If somehow that could go away, that would be so amazing because then I could actually get them to join me. This is a wacky ass save, man. Alright folks, I couldn't get them to join me peacefully, so I think my response has to be that I will just take a treaty port. Britain has become the new China. I will be taking a treaty port in the home counties if I may. Let me just check this. If they refuse to build ports, then I will bring the ports to them. Here we go. Let's get this. They might actually even just surrender. Their GDP is so... Oh, they were in bankruptcy as well. The Belgian port city, of course. Let's build a couple of ports here, yeah? This is so sad to see. The British market has not a single trade route because they don't have a single port, but they got all of these ships. I would just deliver everything that is short, basically, right? That's how we're gonna do this. Alright, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is the weirdest thing that I've ever seen. I cannot explain it. And it's also the laggiest thing, by the way. It's just, if you look at this, you can see that I'm literally exporting to everybody. And what happens when I click on this is that the entire interface says, I regret waking up today. And you can see that if I go, for example, on clothes, like, where, I'm exporting quite a bit, literally everywhere, basically, as you can see. For some reason, Great Britain tells me you can't do that. And I don't understand why. I build a port and everything, but I guess this is the end of it. We've created a very odd, anarchic paradise that has absolutely sucked Spain dry. Look at this, Jesus Christ. What about the Netherlands? Oh wow, yeah. Everybody that joins this market will simply decline. I don't know what's happening in this world. I can just tell you that this strat definitely works. There's no GDP in this world except Belgium, if you really look at how concentrated it is. This is the dumbest run. I've had a great time. I hope so did you. Yeah, no idea what happened with the British there, but I'll see you later. Alligator.